Hey folks, hope you're doing well. We're here on chapter 8 now, looking at section 8.1, our data definition commands. Now, we've done a little bit of this before, but we haven't actually run the commands yet. So as we started building out our models, we looked at the different types that each of these attributes was, each of these columns was. So like, we have integer attributes, we have varchar for variable number of character, we have dates, we have numbers with, the size and number of decimal places. We've got all sorts of options for the types of fields that these attributes are, and that becomes important when we start defining our tables and our attributes. So last chapter was all about the data manipulation language, specifically looking at selects. So we're going to finish up a data manipulation language later in this chapter, and we're also going to look at the data definition language, the DDL versus the DML. Right? We have these two types. You have the DDL, which is what we're going to be looking at. This is our data definition language, and then we have the DML, the data manipulation language. So this was our select. It's also going to have an update, D-A-T-E. It's going to have an insert, and it's going to have a delete. Right? Other times you might hear this known as CRUD, or create, read, update, delete. So read is our select, right? That's our read here. Create is our insert. Update is update, and delete is delete. So a lot of people like saying CRUD. That's just a common term as well for these. But for our data definition language, this is how we create tables. And we define the attributes. So the book is going to go into a lot of specifics around how we can write these commands, and then later on I'm going to show you some shortcuts. So again, the importance with our data definition language here is how we add all of the metadata. This is the data about the data. So after we have our model, we can start making the actual tables and defining the attributes, loading them in. Generally, you'll need to start by actually making a database itself. So we already have one available online through the online tool. If you don't have your account yet, email me and I'll send you a username and password to log in, and we can play around with that without having to install our own relational database management system here. The web version saves us a lot of time there. And then the next step that you would typically do is you make something called a schema. A schema is just a grouping of objects here that's going to kind of put them all together. So it's our schema. So that's just a bunch of things in the database. They all get grouped together into a single schema. It's kind of like a level of security access and also a level of logical groupings. So we might have, this particular schema over here has all of this plane stuff, right? So we'd have a plane or airport schema or whatever we might want to call it here. And database management systems can have more than one schema working at the same time. So that way you don't need to have multiple database management systems running. You can have a single database server with running the database management system and have different applications each having their own schema. So maybe we have one for the airport, maybe we have one for HR, right? Doing all the payroll sorts of things that might not be related to the plane. Maybe some cases it is, but you can have all sorts of data about that. You might have something about our infrastructure or the actual building maintenance sort of things here, right? We care about the upkeep of our buildings, but it's not really related to our planes or human resources, that sort of thing. So you can have multiple schemas in a given database, and then in each schema we build all the tables, all the indexes, all the attributes, those sorts of things that we're going to get into